Start with a roll call. I'll start with a roll call. I, Janice Mensa, am here. Matt Brummond,
Present.
Reverend Daryl Gray,
Present.
Pamela Walker,
Present.
Hillary Stuckey,
Present.
Mike Milton. Oh, you are here. Couldn't see you.
Present.
Gotcha. James Dom,
Present.
Tom Lawson,
Present.
Ornitha Lewis Walls,
Present.
and Barb Baker.
Present.
Okay, looks like we're all here. Okay, the agenda is as follows. We have 1, welcome and call to order. 2, approval of minutes from the 1/9/2023 meeting. 3, a motion to close the meeting pursuant to 610.021, section 1, for discussion of privileged or confidential communications. 4, return to open session. 5, use of force investigations at Division of Corrections. 6, update on information requests submitted to the Division of Corrections. 7, new business, and 8, adjournment. Are there any late additions to the agenda?
Janice,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if y'all saw my email. I've got like 3 issues I'd like to kind of get on the record, and I don't know if I do that as an agenda item or if I can just do it under new business. I'm fine under new business if you all are.
Yeah, that can be new business. Do you want to like summarize what those 3 are, or?
Yeah, just briefly. At some point, I'd like to really discuss as a group what our plan is for the year, what our goals and objectives are, what our outcome measures are going to be for not only our success, but how we're going to help people within the system, corrections officers and detainees. Secondly, I've asked a couple of times if I could lead the effort to do a medical review, look at complaints, look at response times, look at appropriateness of care, particularly as it pertains to the deaths. And then third, I think I've asked several times, where is the detailed response to the recommendations of the 2021 Mayor's Task Force? It shouldn't be that hard to come up with. They either implemented them or they didn't. And it shouldn't be that hard to update. So those 3 things at some point, I'd like to get on the table officially.
Okay, so it sounds like 1, a plan for the year. 2, the medical review specifically on the deaths. And then 3, a detailed response from the 2021 task force recommendations.
You got it.
Okay, I will come back to that under new business. So let's see. Any other late additions to the agenda?
I had a really quick one. In light of the most recent interview from Tony Messenger about the destruction of evidence from the jail, I think that's worthy of discussion to talk about. Yeah, just want to add that.
Okay, I think that's on the agenda agenda item 5, use of force investigations at Division of Corrections. Is that okay? So we'll address that there.
Yeah, we can for sure. Yeah, we can address it there.
Okay, sounds good. Let me just copy this agenda over to my notes. Any other additions? Okay, so just give me 1 minute and then we'll move on to the meeting minutes. Okay, so are there any additions or corrections to the meeting minutes from the 1/9/2023 2023 meeting.
Hey, James, could you clarify? You said one of the statements in the minutes.
Yeah, it's under subsection 6, I think, and it's about house arrest and books being sent in, and it's attributed to Mr. Lawson, and it was actually me that had spoken on that.
Okay, so that's on page 4 on house arrests, and then
Like
book-
sending books in and stuff like
Okay,
that.
I'll make those changes.
That was the only thing I noticed.
Thanks,
Okay.
James. Any other additions or corrections to the minutes?
They were very good and very thorough. For someone who missed the meeting, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks to Ruby, our staff member. She spent a lot of time listening to us multiple times to get that down. So
Thank you, Ruby.
Thanks, Ruby.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby.
Okay.
You're all welcome.
Okay, so the minutes stand as corrected. We don't need to vote on the minutes, right?
No, you would take a motion to approve them.
We do take, okay. Would anyone like to,
I move that we approve the minutes with the corrections stated.
I second.
okay, so do we need discussion on that? Nope, so we can take a vote. All in favor? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. So the meeting or the minutes stand approved as corrected. So next on the agenda is a motion to close the meeting pursuant to 610.021, section 1 for discussion of privileged or confidential communications. How do we close the meeting, Matt?
I'm going to
Break up
ask
the room.
all the members of the public just to voluntarily log out. And then if you log back in, I'll just keep you in the waiting room until we're done with the closed session. And then I'll let you back in when we reopen the meeting. That way, that'll allow you to come back in. If you don't voluntarily log off, I'll remove you. But Zoom will not let you back in at all then. So I don't want to do that. So if you can voluntarily log off, just log back in. I'll keep you in the waiting room until we're done with the closed session. If we give a few minutes for that, hopefully that'll work.
So Chairman,
Is this-
we would need,
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Mhm.
We
No,
would
go
need
ahead.
a roll call vote on the motion to close pursuant to that
Okay.
exception. And then we'll need likewise a roll call vote to come back into open.
Okay, sounds good. So,
I move that we adjourn to close meeting pursuant to 610.021
One.
for discussion of privilege and or confidential communications.
just to clarify, is just doing the motion a roll call vote, or is it I go name by name and say,
After
Yeah.
the mo-
Yeah, in my name.
second, yeah, after the motion is seconded, then you call the roll.
okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. So now I will start the roll call vote, and it's just board members, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Reverend Gerald Gray,
Yes.
Pamela Walker,
Yes.
Hillary Stuckey,
Yes.
Mike Milton,
Yes.
James Dom,
Yes.
Tom Lawson,
Yes.
Ornitha Lewis Walls,
Yes.
Barb Baker.
Yes.
Okay, looks like all yeses. Is the public,
There's still a few people on here. With Director Isom of Department of Public Safety last week, along with Commissioner Clemens Abdullah. And the agreement coming out of that was any use of force incidents that occurred at corrections from kind of that point forward would be investigated by the Division of Civilian Oversight. And that and she was going to provide those within 24 hours of receiving any use of force, notice of use of force incidents. At this point, we haven't received any use of force incidents from her. And so that's kind of where we're at. Oh,
Matt, did you say?
Barb, do we need to say anything about what happened in closed session?
No, because I don't believe that you're gonna take any resulting action in
Okay, got it.
open. So,
Okay,
you know,
sorry.
like if we were making a
Right.
contract or something and now we're taking it out, but I don't think that, you know.
Okay. So that's the current status of the use of force investigations. And so now with the change in administration or the change in director of public safety, we'll be following up here going forward.
Going
Matt,
forward.
Matt, I might have missed it. Did you say something about the past use of force?
No, I did not.
Okay. Well, since Mike brought this to our attention, did you want to say something, Mike?
I mean, I had a question about what you just said, Matt. So going forward, from what time to what time?
So that would have been, last Monday would have been January 23rd going forward. So 1/23/23.
And so if I'm understanding correctly, whenever there's a use of force complaint happen from the detainees or people who are held up in CJC, she's supposed to give those right to us, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But nothing about the previous use of force.
No.
And did you ask them about that?
I'd have to look at all the different information requests. I'm pretty confident at some point in our request of information, we've asked for past use of force incidents, reports, complaints. I mean, anything that fits within the ordinance's definition of detention incidents, we've requested from the commissioner. That was part of the response that we got and discussed at our last meeting.
It's freezing outside. It's like
Hillary, you're off mute.
So what we've received from the commissioner as far as information, the only information we received from the corrections commissioner is the jail roster. And then on, I believe it was January 17th, we received some of the internal resolution requests. So detainees can submit an IR, that's kind of the term. We received a few of those, about 20 that we've reviewed. And I believe out of those, only one concerned use of force. Yeah, just one.
Say we, are you saying the board? I'm sorry, I've been out for.
No, I guess I'm referring to my staff, my investigators and I.
Okay.
I think
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it would. I also believe that in the questions I sent to you, Matt, there was a question about use of force. I'm trying to find it in my email, but
yeah,
you can continue. If I find it, I'll.
Yeah. So I mean, I think any reasonable interpretation of the request that we've made to the Department of Corrections and the commissioner that we're asking for past use of force incidents and complaints. That's part of that information.
Do we get to see those complaints and stuff as a board?
We're still trying to determine that. They've objected. So we're trying to, because of the confidentiality rules, trying to determine the best way. That's just on my to-do list of how we can disclose them to the board.
And the IRR as well. So how can we get to the bottom of anything and making referrals or anything if we don't know what's going on. And the only way we can know what's going on is by those reports.
Right.
And talking to the clients there as well as the staff there. I just hope we don't allow them to turn us into a board where we just meet every month for 2 hours and not taking any action. We was appointed to be an action board to find out look at the situation about the things that's going on there and what kind of suggestions we can make to make it a better place for the people work there as well as the people that has to be housed there. But if we can't see none of those things, I don't see how we can make any decision.
I agree. I'm working to do that in the most expeditious, lawful way, trying to, address the complaints. Part of the issue, and Barbara, I sent this to you a while back, is that because of the different ordinances, the detention facility oversight board's been installed and in place, and that ordinance is active. The second ordinance is under an injunction, but not to the detention facilities board. But that second ordinance had a 1-year startup kind of preparation to where we're not quite operational as a division of civilian oversight, which doesn't affect the board. I think we can still request information on your behalf and send it to you. But there is a little bit of gray. It's not always clear as to how the two ordinances are working together.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand on this thing. I can't. It keeps disappearing on me, so I'm sorry if I'm interrupting. But
you can do it in real life, Pam, if you raise it.
Thank you. Great idea.
Remember.
If you look at section 5, B and C of the ordinance, it addresses access to information and access to the facility. And it also, in that, I'm not going to say it articulately well, but in that section somewhere, it says, if we aren't getting the information that we think we're entitled to under the ordinance, we can write a letter to the Director of Public Safety and the mayor, and they're supposed to get it to us. So, if we don't think we're getting things timely or comprehensively, it might be time to do that. Say, these are the things we've asked for and haven't gotten. And it's impacting our ability to do our responsibilities. So I don't know how long we wait to get responses to things and how we trigger that, but that is an option. But everybody should read those two sections because they're very clear and very detailed about what we can access as far as information and the facility. And Janice, as you said, they're supposed to let us access the facility upon notice without barriers or forgot what the word was, conditions.
I also believe that notice requested in the ordinance is notice to MAF. It's not necessarily notice to the commissioner of the facility.
I'll look at that again with that question.
Sure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I saw that Mike had his hand up. I will pass it to you. I also found what I was talking about in my questions, and these were sent the last week of December. So we'll call it the first week of January with the holidays. But I had only asked, please provide a list of instances of pepper spray /mace /tear gas /chemical agents, how many detainees were affected, what type of space were the agents used in, parentheses, cell, rec room, etc. So that was the only type of use of force that I asked about. But what were you going to say when you raised your hand?
Actually, I'll pass it to Rev Gray. I think he was waiting.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Milton. I just my question, just for clarification. And so, to be clear, Matt, the department is prepared to give us use of force reports as of January 23rd moving forward. That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. And my second question is, you mentioned, and I'm sorry that I didn't get it because it went by real quick. It was like a blur. You said something about what information are they declining to give to, that they're declining to give to the board? What information was that you were talking about? It went by so fast, it was a blur. You mentioned there was some information and or report that they were declining to give to the board.
We've requested the grievances. We've requested. I mean, pretty much any of their past use of force investigations. But I want to be precise, though. I don't want to just say, because we've made so many different requests that haven't been. I mean, you saw the answer to the request from the board that was submitted.
Yeah.
And I don't have that in front of me.
No, that's okay. So I think I'm clearer. So any reports, grievance, use of force, complaints, whatever complaints that come through as of January 23rd, we are privy to. We're just not privy to those reports and information prior to 23rd. I just want to be
the direction was not regarding the board's access to it. Was the direction was to the Division of Civilian Oversight conducting use of force investigations.
Okay.
Just to be precise, and also I'd also say that the mayor's executive order is still in effect of providing that information.
Right. Okay, I just wanted to be clear, and thank you, Chair, because when I thought I heard that there was something that they did not want to give to the board, I wanted to be real clear about what that was.
I'm in the process of just developing a timeline of all the different requests and what the responses have been, and hope to have that done shortly.
Thank you. So thank you very much. That cleared that up. I'll put my hand down now.
I mean, thank you. I think that
Thank you, Mike.
I think I have I don't know, I'm kind of floored. I don't know what the rationale for them to withhold any information from us. Just point blank period. Yeah. Second of all, can the Department of Corrections produce any complaints that was revealed via the sunshine request? Like this, it's very clear to me that there's a barrier to getting access to the information, which also brings up a question of if we can even trust whether we will get reports going forward from the 23rd directly from the commissioner at all. So I think, one, I got several things going on at the same time, but I'm interested to hear, like, why would there ever be a situation where we can't have access to the information previous or going forward? And then how can we trust that we would actually get information going forward from the 23rd on?
I don't know if I have good answers for that. I mean, what's gets cited to me is the confidentiality provisions, which we have and that we adopted in our first meeting. So I don't.
But isn't sunshine request already considered public record?
I'll defer to Barbara Burkett on that.
Well, the sunshine law is found in chapter 610 of the state statute. I can send you a link if you want to look through it yourself. I don't want to, seem like I'm hoarding any information, but in point 021 of that chapter, there's about 25 reasons why you can close something. So that would be like if subsection 14 is if there's a law that would prevent the release. So if perhaps a HIPAA might prevent a medical record from coming from a medical facility or but there's just a laundry list of things. So I'm not really sure about a specific example or what's being cited. So for that, I apologize, but that's a generally how things get to be considered closed.
But I'm asking about documents that are already been released under the sunshine.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I'd like to know what public document it is, because I'm really not, I guess I'm not the one issuing that opinion, and I'm not really fully knowing what the circumstances are. I'm sorry.
Okay. How you?
The part I don't understand is that this board was formed for us to look at those kind of things and come up with the referrals and stuff. And how can they deny it? You know, how are we supposed to do any work when we can't get past the walls of looking at any of the problems or what people are complaining about, or, you know? And I'm sure there's a lot of complaints in there to come from the defenders there as well as staff there.
That does remind me additionally that, Matt, now that we have staff, how do we go about setting up our, setting up a way for facility staff and the people detained there to make complaints directly to us? I remember I had asked about if we can get a flyer into those bulletin boards in the pods.
I can follow up and see if we can get direct complaints. I don't want to presume the answer, but I will follow up specifically on making sure detainees have direct access to making complaints to us.
Janice.
Just 1 second, Hillary. Follow up with who? The
That
commissioner?
ain't gonna answer.
Commissioner of Corrections. I mean,
What did you say, Hillary?
I put myself on mute. I was asking a question.
Sure.
So my concern is too with the sunshine law. Mike, can you ask that question one more time, please, about the sunshine law?
Yeah, I was just basically asking, why can't we get access to sunshine requests that are already been released? Like there should be nothing that's blocking us from getting access to those sunshine requests.
Have
Right.
we requested that?
no.
No, that's basically what I'm asking. Can we request that, and would that allow us to get previous use of force previous to January 23rd?
Right,
I
request
would
something.
assume we would have to ask whoever made the sunshine request for access.
So isn't there an order where we can send a request to them and requesting it under the sunshine law? So that they can't deny sending it to us.
If you wanted to make a sunshine law request, I mean, the city has a portal, but you could, once again, you could have a letter, a request, you could vote on it as a board and say, this is exactly the sunshine law request that we're making. You could send it on through, and, you know, then there's a record of it and it tracks just like any other sunshine law request.
If we're gonna go the portal route, I would suggest that we just vote to have one person handle that, so it doesn't take. Vote to have one person handle that right now, so it doesn't take longer than it needs to. But Matt, what were you gonna say?
I sense as a lot of it might be denied because of the personal information contained on the complaints. And I mean, we're supposed to be getting this information anyway. I don't want to resort to means we shouldn't have to. I guess I want to insist on, hey, let's have the ordinance and the mayor's executive order followed. It's kind of where I would, rather than bringing more options into it.
And I wasn't recommending any course of action. I'm just saying that that's the process, because the sunshine law isn't a sunshine law request until it goes to the custodian of records. So that's really, you know, for anyone who wants to make a request, that's the way it goes.
But if we ask, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut somebody off.
It was.
Oh, is everybody ready for a motion? I can make a motion and then we can discuss it. So
Can
what
ask you real quick?
the motion that I would make is that we outline in detail what information we have not received from corrections. And we quote our authority to do that under the ordinance, and we send that to the mayor and the director of public safety and demand the information. So we get on record as to what we haven't gotten, and we follow the guidance in the ordinance that says if we don't get information, we are to tell the mayor and the director of public safety, and they are to produce it.
I second that motion, Pam.
So we'll take a vote. All in favor? Or sorry, do we need discussion on that?
Only after the, only before the, after the second and before the vote.
Okay, so I was about to skip right to the vote, so I'll open it for discussion. Unless we want to move things along, either way.
Well, I'd rather
I would
motion.
suggest, I'm sorry, Ms. Stuckey, I just wanted to suggest as you go into discussion that the board typically acts as a board with a majority vote. So if you wanted to if you wanted to give this duty to one person, that would need to be in your motion. And that's all I wanted to share.
So would you like to, I guess, Pam, amend the motion to include someone as responsible, and then we can go to discussion?
Who would that be?
That would be Pam Walker.
Oh,
I can do it.
The mover of the motion.
or is that Matt's role? Is that your?
I'll be happy to draft a letter detailing the information requested and the authorities for the board's review
Okay.
and approval.
Oh, I'm
Is that
sorry.
okay with your
And was
second?
that give you more work? I'm sorry, my bad.
That's my job.
Hey, Matt, I'm sorry. I was trying to give that work to Pam, but she put off on you real quick.
I don't think I'm qualified to do that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll amend my motion to say that we're requesting that Matt do that.
Do we need
If Chairman, if you ask Ms. Baker if she would, she's the second, so she has to
Mhm.
agree to that amendment. Sorry.
Barb
I
Baker?
I agree to that amendment.
Terrific. Now for discussion. Is
We
there
got-
any?
I was gonna say, we running out of time.
Yeah. Do we have, I don't think we have a hard stop, do we?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I'll keep an eye on what we have left. But discussion,
Call the vote.
let's start the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. So that'll be 2 letters now, Matt. And just so we know what we have left, I guess whatever's left, does this conclude? Are we ready to move on to the next meeting agenda item?
Yeah, I think we kind of covered it
Okay,
about information requests. We kind of put it all together. So I think we're at new business by my account.
Janice,
yes, Hillary?
I had one question before I had 2 questions, and it was kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying as far as notifying with the billboards and bulletins in the jail. My question too with media, will anybody ever vocalize that people can, that we're here for them to request these things, via the media, getting actually footage that way, doing any type of interview or something? Just so the inmates are aware, or their families, so that the information get passed along in the community? That was my question.
Is that question for a specific person?
No, it's really it was just asking because you were saying something about media, and I'm asking to whomever can, respond to this. Are we going to be in the news coverage at all? Whoever represents the board, so that the families of the inmates can also see this, in the news, other than just, when we pass the information along inside the jails.
I will be back in 5 seconds, but you guys can continue.
So Matt, I guess this is to you. What kind of, response are we gonna give to the inmates or whomever?
Yeah, I think that's something we can explore of how can we make it known that this is a complaint avenue, that we're willing to receive complaints.
Yeah, I'm just kind of concerned, and I'm not trying to take any more of anyone's time, but my concern is because of the distractions that are happening within the board, and we're just kind of getting a groove as far as like what's going on. But my concern is that we're not getting to the root of what's going on as well. So I didn't know if something that would take place at any point.
I agree. It's very important to hear directly from the detainees, and we have not been able to do that to hardly any extent at all yet. And so, yeah, I've been, just in general, I've been hesitant to start advertising for complaints before we've had a process worked out. I don't want to create, I want to have a process. This is what's going to happen to the complaints, where we're actively investigating them ourselves. So that's been my delay as far as publicizing it yet. Where I don't want it to be, yeah, give me your complaint, and all we end up doing is turning it over to the Commissioner of Corrections. Because that, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just was just curious. That's all.
Matt, what did you mean by that? You didn't want to say that if you give us your complaint, we'll just turn it over to the commissioner.
Well, because currently, because we didn't, prior to us having investigative staff, when we've been receiving complaints regarding corrections, we've only been turning them over to the commissioner. We're notifying them, but we haven't been investigating them ourselves. And in fact, the times that we have, we've been unsuccessful in trying to interview detainees about complaints. And so what I'm saying is I don't want to go out to the public and say, hey, give us your complaints so we can do something about them, when we actually haven't been able to do that yet, if that makes sense. So I mean, yeah, I think a big part of this is making sure that anybody who has a complaint makes its way to us and the board. But that's just been my thought process of not advertising yet till we actually have the investigators in place and we have a process in place, and that we can say, give us a complaint so we can look at it.
So to be clear, we have received complaints directly to the.
Yes.
Okay.
And let me check and see if they're actually in the box.
And just before I forget my other question, the two things we're waiting on before we can take complaints directly, make use of complaints directly to us, is the investigators on staff. So people haven't been hired for those positions yet. And then also processes in terms of that the board would vote on.
Right. We have some processes and procedures that we've approved at prior meetings. If there's a shared box that you all should have access to, and if you don't, we will get access to that. Copies of complaints are uploaded into there. So if you go in there, you can see the complaints. And I'm looking at two right now.
Could you reshare that just so it goes to the top of our inbox?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
What were those complaints, Matt, if you don't mind me asking?
Let me pull them up.
And while you pulled it up, you stated earlier you listed off a list of things that we wanted to request. I did not hear anything about video footage of use of force complaints. Is that possible? Is that not possible? Can we add that as well?
I'll add that in and make sure it's specifically requested.
Okay.
One is about a corrections officers' conduct outside of the not within the CJC, but elsewhere. And then one is about mental health programming within the jail. But I'll resend them and or I'll have them resent, if not tonight, tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, man.
I think I see the email invite and it's from Onswar if anyone's looking for it.
Yeah.
It's
I'll
called
have him
DOB.
resend it tomorrow. He's the one that handles the box.
Okay,
Excellent.
perfect. Where are we in the agenda? I stepped away for a second. Now I'm confused.
I think we're at new business.
Point of information,
Mhm.
Chair, just in the event that you ever have to step away, it's automatic that you do have a vice chair, so nothing stops.
Mm-hmm.
So just for a point of information. And we didn't get much further. We kind of all paused when you left. We're dependent upon your leadership, so we paused when you left. So just for future reference, so that particularly people who are on here understand that we do understand the process and protocol. So we were never without someone in the chair's position.
Sounds good. Okay, so moving to the next item. We haven't talked about the plan for the year yet.
No, we were just beginning with new business.
Okay, so Pam, do you want to talk a little bit about what you imagine we would discuss?
Yeah, I don't want to take a lot of time with this because I think I've heard a lot of my frustration on you throughout. My dog is ready for his dinner. Hugh, stop that. So sorry. I know y'all want to get done. Just my frustration with, I kind of heard Hillary say, what are we going to tell the detainees that we're doing? How will we share what we're doing? How will we know if we've met objectives? How do we make it clear to the media and to the public and everybody what our goals are? I think that would help, one, guide us, and two, keep us in the frame of the ordinance, and three, make it clear to the people that we need information from, that we're serious about where we're going and that we need this information. So that would take some time, a bigger discussion to have. The other two issues, I think I heard very clearly similar frustrations, Thomas and others, about, we keep asking for things that are going to have an impact and make a difference, and we're like yelling into a tunnel. And I think we're taking a great step forward there by putting in documentation what we've asked for, what we've been refused. I think we've taken a big step in directing our own future with the letter to the city councilor's office. I was just feeling a lot of frustration, and I think this meeting has taken steps to help with that. So I don't think we need to go to each one of those individuals individually.
Okay.
I would like to request information on the healthcare, but we're not getting everything. We've requested a ton of information we haven't gotten. So let's get that first, because I think the use of force issue is really important, and the things that you asked for, Chair, are very important. So I'll be thinking about how to word that for a health investigation.
Okay.
And bring it to the board once we
Okay.
resolve that they are going to answer our questions.
Sure. And the third thing you had mentioned before was a detailed response from the task force recommendations. Did you want to say anything on that?
Just that we've asked for that a couple of times in public, and we've discussed it, the need to do that. it's a great starting point. And I think would actually help them if they would say, we've dealt with these 10, 20 things, so you don't need to. But right now, I'm still wondering, one of our recommendations was somebody testified about their frustration of getting information about use of force. And one of our recommendations was very clear that needed to be more transparent, and all their information needed to be more transparent. Evidently, according to the media, they did the opposite, destroyed records. So now I'm wondering, do they implement any of our recommendations? Are there locks? Did they do the things that we recommended to keep the guards safe? Have they addressed any of the training issues that we raised? If they have, tell us, we'll move on. But unless they do, we're gonna keep revisiting that stuff till we get some answers. We recommended they have an annual review of the medical care system. So I wouldn't have to be asking that question if they had done it. They've had 2 years to do it. So yeah, I'm going to hold them accountable for some of this stuff and keep saying it in public until we get some answers.
Thank you, Pam.
We're not going away. We're not going away. So if that fantasy's out there, it needs to disappear. This board
Good
is
point.
here. It's legitimate, and we're going to do our job.
Thank you.
To the chair, I'm sorry, I'll put my hand up.
Okay, I'll come to you right after James.
Okay, no problem.
We did receive a very, very cursory response from Commissioner Clemens Abdullah. A lot of it said that a lot of the recommendations made by that committee were not her purview. And then I think it was somebody else asking us not to waste her time with asking those questions again, something along those lines. It was not very tactfully worded. Also, I think any kind of medical records we're going to have to go through the medical provider who's contracted out. It was Corizon. I don't know if it still is. And I feel like that's going to require subpoenas, but I don't know that for fact. But
we could get aggregate data. They can't use HIPAA as an excuse.
But yeah, it's gonna anything medical will have to go through that third party provider and not directly to like the commissioner, because it's going to be out of her hands, because it's not their records, it's the medical department, which is a contracted company. So
right.
We don't have access to their
At one
medical
point, I helped write that contract. So
Okay.
I know they have to be responsive to these kinds of questions unless the contract has been drastically changed so they can keep it all quiet. Because the aggregate data is the right of the city to have. I don't need names. I don't need to know who had a cold. I just like to know how many people had a cold.
No, my concern was basically just that our requests are going to the right place,
Mhm.
and they're not just getting funneled in the wrong direction and then getting lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, I hear you, but they are under a contract with the corrections commissioner and the city. So the city needs to tell them to produce it, or they need to get another provider and rewrite the contract.
That does. I'm going to pass it to you, Vice Chair, in a second. That does remind me, Matt. The commissioner did get back to me through Matt on the breakdown I had requested of inmate population by charges, and then also by length of stay, less than 30 days, over a month, over 6 months, over a year, and then totals. How can we put that in the box, or how do we give access to the board members that information?
I'll just have it emailed to everyone.
Okay, and is that confidential, or?
It's anonymized, so I don't believe it's confidential.
Okay. Wait, as in the public can see this as well, or no?
Right.
Did you say something, Mike? I didn't.
Yeah, I was saying, Matt, are you saying that the names are, like, the people are anonymized, so that we don't have the names of the people?
No, I think the chart I sent you just had the.
It just has charges.
We have the names. We do have the names. but in the chart we prepared, we just did charge and length of stay. So I can send that out to everybody.
Please.
Yep.
But to the point of, can the public see it? Do we have an answer on that?
I don't see why not. I mean, I think it would all be publicly available anyway. You know, if someone could go in, you know, you can look at any court record, or there's a way to obtain this information publicly anyway. So I don't see why this wouldn't be.
Is there somewhere, I guess, on the Division of Civilian Oversight's website or something that we can, for the sake of transparency, post different documents like this for the public?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great. If we could, I guess, if you could put this document up, that'd be helpful.
Yep, we'll send it out.
Okay, and I'll pass it to Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm encouraged by this meeting. I think that we are moving forward, although slowly. I do understand what Matt was said, that, you know, this 1 year startup, this grace period, because of someone said on the call, one of the board members, for a lot of us, we're novice. It doesn't mean that we have not been advocates or activists or practitioners. It just means that as a board, all of us are new. And so it's going to take time for us to be in sync with the Department of Corrections, with the City Council, and with all of the other parties. So it is going to take a moment for all of us to get in sync with that. But it does not preclude the fact that we have a responsibility right now, that ours is a right now responsibility, not a 1 year from now responsibility. So I want to thank the chair and Matt and Barbara from the City Council's office for helping us and moving us along. Pam, we did get through the chair. So we did get a letter from the city councilor, that January 9th letter, where some of those more questionable descriptions of our questions were given to us. But we did get a response from the commissioner, the director of the center, regarding several of our questions that were specific to the 81 recommendations. And some of it was just the city council referring us to different websites. And so it might be helpful that as we look at those websites that we got, some of those websites we might want to put on our own. If we have a website for our board, we might put that on there so that people will at least have that information. And the Mr. Garvin indicated, Garvin indicated that all of the questions were not pertaining to the correction center specifically. We understood that. We understood that there were other departments that had responsibility over those 81 recommendations. But I think that what we were asking, and maybe we didn't do it specifically, that maybe the Department of Public Safety might be able to help facilitate the answer to the questions or to the recommendations as related to the specific department. So if it's Department of Health that should be asking the question, maybe we should be asking, rather than the commissioner of corrections to facilitate getting those answers, maybe we should be asking the Department of Public Safety to get those answers, because all of the answers still pertain specifically to the correction center and what is taking place within those walls as relates to the health, safety, welfare of detainees, staff, and an administrative body. So maybe, I don't know if this is to Matt, maybe we're reaching back out and saying we would like to get specific responses to the 81 recommendations, maybe rather than reaching back out to Ms. Abdullah, who's simply going to say to us, listen, I already responded to what we were doing at the correctional center. You need to start talking to somebody else. Maybe we need to ask that question specifically to Department of Public Safety and ask them to reach out to the appropriate departments to see what that response is. I don't want to give the impression that the commissioner, Ms. Clemens Abdullah, has not responded to anything, because she has. But at the same time, I still agree with Pam that there are still some questions yet to be answered by her, but we do need questions answered by the other bodies as well. So maybe there needs to be some type of communication so that we can get that done specifically. And then finally, when I know we talked about it previously about meeting with the detainee reps, and once again, maybe I missed something. Is there a date in which a subcommittee of this board can begin those meetings with the detainee reps? So those are that's one is a recommendation that we communicate with public safety regarding the 81 recommendations with other departments. And two, it's a question, have we confirmed a meeting with the detainee reps, and can this be done by a subcommittee? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Vice Chair. On one, I think it's to cover our bases, we can pose those questions to both. And on two, I'm sure Matt can get into this better than I can, but I believe the dorm reps are supposed to meet regularly. I don't know if it was monthly, but at their last meeting, it was canceled or something like that.
They're supposed to meet the first Thursday of every month at 10 o'clock. They have not met the last 2 months that we're aware of. That we've tried to attend the last two meetings just as oversight staff, and they haven't been held. So the next one would be this Thursday. So we'll try again, or to set up a separate one with members of the board, however you want to do it. And I guess if we did it the whole board, it would have to be a public meeting, and we don't want that. So
I'm sure if we just have to do 3 again, we can figure that out by email.
Well, and I was trying to make that part of whatever the last tour was, just kind of doing it all at once.
Okay. And just to, I guess to clarify.
A point of clarity, a point of clarification. I wanted to ask with the meetings of the dorm reps, is it the intent, Chair, that in the first series of meetings that we were looking at breaking it down into 3 board members here in order to introduce ourselves to the board reps, followed up by maybe a subcommittee that can, I just want to be clear, Matt, is it necessary for the board members to meet with dorm reps after an introductory meeting? So I just want to be clear, Chair, about what you're saying, that the same way we did the tour, that maybe the first Thursday and whatever, these 3 board members would meet just as an introduction. So they know that the board exists, and then at the next monthly meeting, or is there any way where we can set up the meeting with the first Thursday of the month? We meet with these 3 board members, and the second Thursday we meet with these 3 board members, and so that we don't have 3 months or 4 months pass before the dorm reps meet with all of the board members. I mean, we can expedite this. We don't have to follow the calendar, because if we follow the calendar, by the time these dorm reps meet with all of our board members, we'll be into the summer. And I think that there's some things we can expedite. It's just, I'm just asking for clarification, or if this is something that we can do. And maybe Matt would have to go back and talk to Ms. Clemens Abdullah to see if that's something that they could facilitate. Not something that they would be open to, but that they could facilitate. Because I think the more we beg, the more we get declined. But if we say, look, we want
to request them to appear before the board at a meeting?
No.
Like remotely, or
and that might be good too, because that way all of the dorm reps get an opportunity to meet with all of the board members at the same time.
I'll explore all those options. Yeah, it's not, you know, one of the points of responses that we get is, this is a burden, so we're trying to be, if they're already meeting, trying to take some of the burden off the staff. But no, I think that's we'll definitely research that option of just having a separate meeting for board members with detainees.
I also think, I think I understand this correctly, that the purpose of the smaller number is just to avoid a quorum where we would have to schedule a public meeting. So we could do 5 and 4. Is that correct?
Yeah, because of the logistics of trying to hold a public meeting inside of a correctional facility.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my other question, and then I'll go to Barb and then to Mike. My other question is, it's like a two-parter. So first part, dorm reps are people detained in CJC.
Yes.
So when the commissioner communicates to you that the dorm rep meeting is canceled, does that just mean that they were still in their cells and not meeting? I guess I don't understand, because I mean, they're all there, I guess. Everyone's
present. That's my question. Just to piggyback off you, Chair, why haven't the dorm reps been able to meet?
They'll give you 100 excuses why.
I think there was no one available to facilitate. It was the one time I was there.
As in, like, the guard?
Yeah, whether it's one of the social worker type positions that either wasn't available or not filled. James probably knows exactly the right position, but that person wasn't available to facilitate the meeting.
Yeah, it could be a client services coordinator. It could be a unit manager. It could be any number of, there's supposed to be somebody fairly higher up the ladder that's present, as well as one member, at least in, you know, visual range of security staff were something to happen. But generally speaking, with your dorm rep meetings, they're going to be pretty laid back.
I feel like that's one of those things. I mean,
Yeah, it's abundantly clear to me that, and I'll be sure, it's abundantly clear to me that there's so many barriers being placed, including the dorm rep meeting. It could be that they're not meeting because they're not being let out of their cells. I think there's so much that that we have questions on. I would even, I mean, I'm not gonna raise a motion, but I'm interested to bring the commissioner back into the meeting so we can ask her directly about some of these things. There's so many barriers, so many stoppings, so many things that are preventing us from being able to do our jobs and what we've been called to and appointed for, that I honestly would like to hear from herself why we can't move past them. So again, I'm not making a motion, but I do want to raise that that it's not sufficient enough for me to do this, like pass along, have a meeting here, talk to Matt talks to like, that's not, and I think the community has answers too. And so I think there's a whole nother question about how this information is being made available, our meetings, and if they have ability to ask questions, etc. So yeah, I'll stop there. I think to me, there's just so much brokenness. And Rev Gray, I hear you on like all your congratulations. To me, we've been doing this for a year. We haven't really got far, and people are still reporting that they have been locked down for 23 hours. So there's not been any progress inside of the jail. So I just want to raise that as a question and a point of discussion for the board.
Yeah, to speak to that, Mike, and then I'll go to Barb. I would like to hear from the commissioner again at the meeting. I do, however, think that it would probably still be the same circumstances of we're under various litigation. The city councilor, someone from the city councilor's office is going to sit in. And my only caution is that I don't want to devote too much time of our meetings to that if we're not going to get many answers, but I would like answers. But yeah, I think that's a good point. And I will, I did want to say one thing before I pass it to Barb. So since I'm just clarifying, the ordinance says that I know we've been trying to set it up. Can I just go to the facility for a tour?
Like if we just showed up to the jail, could we get it? Well, I
mean, the ordinance says yes. The ordinance says
Okay.
that you can do that. Whether that would actually happen.
Okay.
That definitely contemplates you showing up.
I do remember that is where this started, with me trying to do that when I thought that was what we were allowed to do. I don't think I was sworn in at that point, which I didn't understand was a thing. But just kind of this conversation has brought me back to that beginning, and thinking about how many months have passed since then, and little has moved. I'm fine. I have the time to go there, and if I'm not let in, I know that the ordinance says that all they have to do is provide a letter saying why I wasn't let in. But yeah, Mike's reminder that people are reporting they're still in their cells 23 hours a day is like, it's very, yeah, maybe it's just being 2.5 hours into a board meeting, but it's very difficult. And I will pass it to, I guess my question is, so without a need to vote on that sort of thing, I could just go and at the next meeting let you guys know I tried. All right, sounds good. I'll pass it to Barb. I'll let you know.
I was just wondering if it's written in stone that we have to do everything in threes, cause
No.
to me,
No.
that's a lot of waste of time and spending out there. One group of three go talk and get this information and all that. And if we want to meet with the dorm reps, we should be able to set up something. They should have a room or something.
Yeah. No, Barb, we
There's
just,
only 9 of us. It's not like it's a whole gang of us.
right. We would just need 5 to not be a quorum. And then also we can't have a quorum. We would just have to do a public meeting with the 24 hours notice and somehow get the dorm reps to be able to meet themselves and also be on the board meeting. But I do see your point, and no, we don't have to keep doing things in threes. Reverend Gray, Vice Chair.
I just wanted to respond to something real quick. Mike, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say Mike, even though we're like that. Mr. Milton, my comment in the form of accolade was not for the correction center. It was for this board. I think that as a board, every meeting we have, it seems as though we become more informed. Our questions, I think, become a lot more deliberate. I think that we as we get more information on the process and how all of this works, it better focuses us, as Pam said, on moving closer to priority, what we can do, what we cannot do, what the ordinance says. And so my comment of accolade was to this board, seeing that we are getting through the growing pains, and that we're responding, as somebody mentioned, not just as adults, but as more informed board members. And so without a doubt, I've seen very little movement. As a matter of fact, I've seen more obstruction within the process from our so-called partners and the people that we're supposed to be working with. But I've seen a lot more cohesiveness and collaborativeness on behalf of board members. So that's going to be clear. That's what my accolades was for the board, not for anything else. I don't want anybody leave here saying that I'm giving good marks to anybody except those folk here who've made a commitment, and in spite of all of the roadblocks and the talking down to and the absence of information or reluctance to pass information, I think this board and its members individually still remain resolved to do what we have been asked to do, and that's serving the best interest of this city as it relates to the detention facility. So I'm glad you said that, because you gave me an opportunity to really clarify what my position is. And so with that, I'll be quiet until somebody makes a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Those sound like,
Milton, and thank you, Mr. Milton, for forcing me to be more clear.
those sound like good ending words, hopefully.
I
I
make
mean,
a motion to dismiss.
could we schedule our next meeting real
Copy
quick?
that.
Are we looking a week out or further?
Matt, how long do you think it'll take you to get those letters typed up?
I hope to have the letters done this week. That shouldn't be too hard to get them done this week.
Okay.
Can we look at can you all look at your calendars for the 6th then? Maybe just next Monday, 5 to starting at 5.
I don't have a problem with 2 weeks out. Let me see. Is the 13th out of the question, Chair, just to give everybody an opportunity to, because we want to give opportunity for the city council's office. I know that that the mayor's office is aware of the issue that we spoke of, and they may need some time to determine where they are and how they want to make a contribution to moving forward. So if we give ourselves at least 2 weeks from tonight, I think that's reasonable, and we give all parties an opportunity to digest where we are, and it gives our board members an opportunity to do what Ms. Walker said, and maybe look at some of those sections as relates to access and as it relates to who should be on the board and how people are removed from the board, so that we're clear, because these have been 3 pretty direct conversations that we've had tonight. And I would suggest that all of us might want to go back and look at the ordinance so that we're clearer when we come back next time with this conversation, and we're able to know exactly what section we need to go to and what. So I would suggest 2 weeks versus a week. Gives us all an opportunity. I know I'm a Baptist preacher. I give long answers to short questions. I'm
I'm,
sorry, John.
I'm
Sorry, guy. All right, Mr. Milton, stop laughing. I see you. I see you laughing. Don't do that. I know where you live.
I'm open to looking at the 13th. I'm also, I know that we have 2 or 3 letters or things to look at our next meeting. I'm also open to looking at the 6th and just doing like a 30-minute meeting, if only to just vote on the correction, the additions we've made, additions or corrections we've made to what Matt types up. And I think it would be helpful to set out that time. And if we don't have anything from Matt by then, or we don't want to vote on it by then, and people want to look at whatever information they would like to, then we can just adjourn and go to the 13th date. We can even set a 6th date and a 13th date. And we
I
can see.
rescind my recommendation, Chair. I think I rescind my recommendation. I think if the meeting on the 6th, if it's specific to that letter, then I think it makes all the sense in the world, and we don't need to go out 2 weeks. Your rationale makes all the sense in the world. I rescind my recommendation about the 13th, and I support the recommendation of the chair for the 6th.
Okay, does 5 to 5:30 work for? Does it not work for anyone?
5 to 6:30 or 5 to 5:30?
5 to 5:30 is the plan.
Perfect.
Okay, so Matt, if you could do up an agenda of just,
The letters.
yeah, and make the post and everything, that would be great.
Okay. Sounds great.
James, you're up.
Motion to dismiss.
Go ahead, James. Wait.
I second that motion, James.
Okay. Did you have something, Vice Chair?
No, I want to thank everybody. It was a great meeting tonight.
Thank you all.
Okay, so I heard a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Okay, if there is no further business, I will let you all have dinner and feed your dogs. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you to
Thank
the
you.
public for
Thank
coming.
you.
Bye.
Guys.
Be safe.
Bye.